This is Miss Boo.
I should have left the second the barista looked at me like I'd already done something wrong. Not confused, not annoyed. Wrong. Like I'd walked into a place where everyone knew the rules except me. My life fell apart because of a $15 bet. I got drunk at Buffalo Wild Wings, threw together a random parlay, and somehow turned 15 into 200. The money didn't matter, the feeling did. It felt like I'd cracked something open for a second. I spent the next 2 years trying to get that feeling back. I lost more than I won. Then I started borrowing, hiding, avoiding people. The kind that don't call twice. They just show up. 4 months ago, I got laid off. I had 45 grand. Now I've got $27.50. And I don't even know how much I owe anymore. My door gets knocked on at night by people who don't knock politely. A few days ago, they tried to break it down. That same night, drunk and desperate, I used AI to write fake sob stories and begged for money on Reddit. Yeah, I know. Most people called me out. Then one guy messaged me, Scott. He said he couldn't give me money, but he had a way I could earn it. A dying mall. Pretend to be a customer. $250 an hour. Show up, Starbucks, second floor. Say the line, get the money, spend it, stay inside. Not 1 second less. I knew it was a bad idea. Then they knocked again, so I went. The mall looked normal, too normal. Big, empty parking lot. No buildings, just highway and forest. Inside, it felt off. People were there, but nobody looked real. Everyone moved like they were trying to look natural and failing. I found the Starbucks. I'm part of the program. The barista stared at me like I'd insulted her. You're supposed to buy something first. They didn't tell you? I ordered a coffee with the last dollar I had. She gave me 10 crisp 10s back. Try harder. I didn't ask what she meant. Chili's was worse. Everyone looked at me, then looked away at the exact same time. There are too many people in here. How busy do you think this place can be before it stops looking real? Nobody spoke after that. The mall got worse. Raw chicken, wrong clothes, glitching screens. One person in the theater didn't move at all. In the bathroom, a door opened. Nobody came out, just a pair of dirty white sneakers standing there. By 8:50, I was watching the clock. That's when he sat next to me. Normal guy, calm voice, said his name was Daniel. Then he asked why I was there. I almost told him. Then I looked down. Dirty white sneakers. My stomach dropped. I have to go. He smiled, too wide. You're not shopping, so why are you here? 8:55. The exit was right there, but I couldn't leave. Not early. At 9, I ran. He grabbed me, yanked me back. I hit the ground. I barely got out. When I turned around, he was still inside, pressed against the glass, smiling, eyes wide, dragging his tongue across the door, like he didn't need to pretend anymore. My car was the only one left. All 4 tires slashed. This morning, I got paid $3,000. Same hours today. You're a customer. Act like it. I really don't want to go back, but I don't think I have a choice.
He watched her walk into the restaurant and immediately felt underdressed, underprepared, and somehow younger than he actually was. She moved through the room like she belonged there, calm, effortless. Not in an arrogant way, more like someone who had spent her entire life being looked at and eventually stopped noticing it. A few men glanced up as she passed their tables. One of them kept staring until she sat down across from Stephen. Stephen stood too fast trying to pull her chair out and nearly slammed his knee into the edge of the table. Smooth. Thank you, she said with a small smile as she slipped her coat off her shoulders. He sat back down, already annoyed with himself. So, you found the place okay? The second he said it, he wanted to die. She laughed softly. I did. It wasn't exactly hidden. Right, yeah, Jesus Christ. But instead of looking uncomfortable, Renee looked amused. Like his nervousness was strangely endearing to her. I'm really glad you asked me out, she said. Stephen looked up. You are? I was starting to think you never would. He stared at her for a second. You knew I liked you? Stephen, every time I walked past your office, you suddenly became very interested in whatever was on your computer screen. He laughed nervously. I thought I was being subtle. You were terrible at it. For the first time all evening, he relaxed a little. That was the strange thing about Renee. Talking to her felt easy almost immediately. Most people made him feel like he was being judged, even when they weren't. Around her, he felt like she had already figured him out and decided she didn't mind what she saw. I just assumed someone like you probably had better options, he admitted. Someone like me? You know what I mean. She tilted her head slightly. No, tell me. Stephen glanced down at his drink before answering. You're beautiful, confident, normal. Something flickered across her expression when he said that last word. Not offense, interest, normal, she repeated quietly. I didn't mean it in a bad way. I know, she smiled faintly. It's just not a word people usually use for me. The waitress arrived before he could respond, and the conversation drifted into safer territory. Work, co-workers they hated, endless meetings that could have been emails. Renee was funny in a way that caught him off guard constantly. Dry, effortless, like she never had to try very hard to be interesting. By the time their food arrived, Stephen had almost stopped feeling nervous. Almost. So, Renee asked casually, what do you do when you're not working? Nothing exciting. I don't believe that. He shrugged. I run sometimes. Watch Netflix. Read. You seem like someone who spends a lot of time inside his own head. Stephen laughed quietly. That sounds like a polite way of calling me mentally unstable. Maybe I like mentally unstable. Something about the way she said it made him look up. Not flirtatious. Too sincere. My mother used to say there was something wrong with me constantly, he admitted before he could stop himself. Most people would have laughed awkwardly or changed the subject. Renee didn't. What kind of things did she say? Stephen hesitated for a second. Usually people ask questions like that because they felt obligated to. Renee actually sounded curious. She thought I was strange, he said. Too quiet, too angry, too emotional. Nothing I did was ever enough for her. Renee watched him carefully while he spoke. That kind of thing stays with you, she said softly. He nodded. She compared me to everyone constantly. Other kids, other men. Eventually you start feeling defective. You're not defective. The way she said it felt oddly personal. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Renee took another sip of wine and said, I like watching people. Watching people? In parks, restaurants, grocery stores, anywhere. She smiled slightly. People work very hard to appear normal. Most of them are terrible at it. And you're good at it? I'm excellent at it. Something cold moved quietly through his stomach. Not fear exactly. Just the feeling that there was another meaning underneath the conversation that he couldn't fully reach yet. You ever think about how little we actually know about each other? She continued. You can see someone every day for years and still have no idea who they really are. That sounds a little paranoid. No, she said calmly. I think it's true. Stephen tried to shake the feeling off. So why did you finally agree to go out with me? I was curious. About what? You. The silence after that felt strangely heavy, not awkward, intentional. Then Renee reached down beside her chair and pulled something from her purse. At first, Stephen thought it was her phone. Instead, she placed a folded newspaper clipping onto the table between them. The moment he saw the headline, his stomach tightened. The Buckhead Butcher strikes again. The noise of the restaurant suddenly felt distant. I don't understand why you're showing me this, he said carefully. Renee studied his face for a few seconds before leaning forward slightly. You know what fascinates me about people? She asked quietly. Most of them never notice anything. Stephen said nothing. They see exactly what they expect to see. That's why people like you survive for so long. His pulse started hammering inside his chest. I think you should leave, he said softly. But Renee only smiled. Not mockingly, almost sympathetically. Stephen, she said gently, if I wanted to turn you in, I wouldn't have agreed to dinner. He stared at her without speaking. I've been following those murders since the beginning, she continued. At first I thought the victims were random. Then I realized they weren't. Stephen felt cold all over. You picked women who reminded you of her. His jaw tightened. Controlling women, cruel women, women who enjoyed humiliating people. Renee tilted her head slightly. Women like your mother. How do you know my mother? The question came out before he could stop himself. The second he said it, he realized he'd made a mistake. Renee noticed too, but instead of looking afraid, she looked relieved. There you are, she whispered. Stephen pushed his chair back too quickly. You need to leave. No, Renee said calmly. I think you've spent your entire life waiting for someone to finally understand you. A A couple at the next table glanced over briefly before returning to their conversation. "You don't know anything about me," Stephen said quietly. "I know you're lonely." That hit harder than he expected. "I know your mother spent your entire childhood convincing you there was something deeply wrong with you." Renee paused for a second. "And I know part of you still believes her." Stephen couldn't speak. Renee slowly lifted her purse onto her lap. It looked heavier than before. "You know the saddest part?" she asked softly. "You still care what she thinks." Then she unzipped the bag slightly. Stephen only saw it for a moment. Grey hair, skin, one closed eye. His entire body went numb. Renee watched his expression carefully. "She said your name before the end," Renee said quietly. "Even after everything, she still thought you'd come save her." Stephen felt like the room was tilting sideways. "I was late because she fought harder than I expected," Renee continued calmly. "You were right about her, by the way. She was cruel." Then she smiled at him, warmly, almost affectionately, and for the first time that night, Stephen understood something horrifying. This was never a date. It was an invitation.
If this story gave you chills, don't forget to subscribe, because the next one might be even worse.